With 5 shows, 4 movies, 1 crossover, 12 video games, hundreds of characters, multiple awards, and more than $4.5 billion grossed in retail alone, Ben 10 is clearly nothing to sneeze at. Released on December 27, 2005, created by Man of Action, Ben 10 Classic is undoubtedly one of Cartoon Network's best and most successful shows. Today we are taking a look at the amazing franchise known as Ben 10. It's hero time. Hey ladies and jellyfish, rumbles of all sizes, welcome back to A.S.K's videos. So I want to clear a lot of stuff up before we start the video. This video will be long, no doubt about that, and I'll split into certain parts, so listen closely. I'll first do a short introduction talking about the franchise known as Ben 10. I will go on to talk about each one of the shows separately in a similar way. I will say what kind of stuff the show brought to the table, and overall give a review and some analysis over everything I talk about. I will talk about the episodes, the characters, the animation, and so on, and I'll rank all 5 of them from worst to best at the end. I will also have some other stuff down the line. The timestamps for everything is in the description below. I enjoy this franchise very much and have been since I first saw it as a very little boy. I basically grew with the show, with the characters. I experienced the writing of the stories falling into me, and that feeling made me love this franchise and all that make it. So just like you, I want to make something special today. So get your Omnitrix and your cringy fangirl fan art in here because we're starting this right now. It's reviewing time. So first, let's talk about what we know. Ben 10 was created on December 27, 2005. That date has also been rumored to have been Ben's birthday in the show according to some Easter eggs sprinkled in by the writers. It was created by Man of Action, a team consisting of Duncan Rouleau, Joe Casey, Joe Kelly, and Steven T. Seagal. Founded in 2000, they are famous for being responsible for franchises such as Ben 10, Generator X, that will come back later, Ultimate Spider-Man, and the old Big Hero 6 comics. So I think it's safe to say that they know what they're doing when it comes to action. The show has won multiple awards, including Daytime Emmys for sound editing. Yeah, because of all the things Ben 10 has to win an award for, it's sound editing. It's had 5 shows: Ben 10 Classic, running from 2005 to 2008, Alien Force from 2008 to 2010, Ultimate Alien from 2010 to 2012, Omniverse from 2012 to 2014, and The Creature Whose Name We Shall Not Speak. From this data, I guess it's safe to say that the shows never gave too little to the fans, never taking any big breaks. Overall, that's the overview. Now let's get into the good stuff, starting with Ben 10 Classic. Running from 2005 to 2008, Ben 10 Classic is known to many fans as the best series. Although I don't agree, we all have opinions and I'll respect yours if you do mine. But with that said, I actually think it is a very good show. So let's start with... With 49 11-minute episodes, the story in Ben 10 is pretty interesting actually. We start with Season 1. It starts with the iconic scene where Ben finds the Omnitrix when it falls from space. It ends with Ben meeting Vilgax and finding out what the Omnitrix is. It is overall very mundane and simple, like fighting a Kraken, yeah, that'll be fun, or getting a cold. That's original, but it actually is. They bring in jokes and tons of characters and tell interesting stories because, well, they can. They tell a lot of great stories that I love, like the episode called Last Laugh, where Ben has to combat his fear of clowns and defeat a killer clown. I know you hilarious people are leaving troll links in the comments, but just back away, toots. Then we go to Season 2. You can tell that they are just feeling more comfortable in writing these episodes, and it is quite the opposite of Season 1. It brings in new concepts, new characters, new villains, new settings, new tropes, yada yada yada. It definitely feels more chill and adds more substance and detail into its plots. It also ends with Vilgax teaming up with Kevin to fight Ben. Overall, a pretty cool season. Then we transition to Season 3. This season is way weirder than the other ones in my opinion. It brings in a lot. We start off with the episode simply known as Ben 10,000. It shows Ben's future, well, one version of it anyway, but I think starting the season with not actual present time Ben is actually pretty clever. This season also throws a lot of characters at you, from Charmcaster to to Dr. Victor, to Ben Mummy and Ben Wolf, or I guess Blitzwolf or Snarrow, to Elsgood or Kai. This season wasn't scared to throw tons of episode material at you for later. It ended with the episode called The Visitor, where Grandpa Max sees an alien he loved and Ben unlocks Upchuck. Overall, a pretty building season. It builds the foundation for the next few seasons and series it is going to welcome. But don't you worry, we'll get to those in a bit. Season 4 was the weirdo in the group though. A lot of the plots were pretty detailed, and while there's nothing wrong with that, these aren't the episodes I would call the best of the series. They weren't bad per se, just not memorable. A lot I liked, such as Ben vs -10 or Ben for Good Buddy. There were a lot of continuity nods, some that worked and some that not so much. It was much funnier, and a lot of characters meant cameos again. But again, don't you worry, we'll get to those very soon. There was definitely a lot of integrity in the writing and creating. The characters in Ben 10 Classic were pretty awesome. Personally, the characters whose names, motivations, abilities, quotes, likes, dislikes, etc. you can remember after a long time of watching are the best kinds of characters. If you don't care for the characters, you don't care about the story, which topples down everything like a line of dominoes.
Oh yeah, Mr. Krabs.
In Ben 10, we had the good guys and the bad guys. We start with Ben. He is the standard whiny and condescending 10-year-old kid that Ben always is and will be. He is snarky when needed and can be mean, but always has a sense of good and never gets too over his head. He can be nice and always does the right thing, but still is just a simple 10-year-old. I think casting Tara Strong as his character was a great idea because Tara can definitely get her Timmy voice and go the more annoying and condescending route, which really matches her character. Then we go to Gwen. She's very snarky and is a straw that breaks the camel's back for Ben's temper. She's also the smarter one of the two, and she often gets commended for that when needed. Oh, and she has magic. Come on guys, we can't have Ben have all the spotlight. Only an Ultimate Alien, but I personally disliked her more often than not. She was always shown as the unlikable one, and Ben being the main character kinda influenced that. She always had his back, just like Ben would as well, but her condescending side was really irritating at some parts, even more than the more immature, childish, and obsessive Ben. She was voiced by Ashley Johnson, and I think the voice matches the character perfectly, in that it is just mediocre and just alright. And we finally have Grandpa Max. He has a defined identity as a proud plumber and father figure towards Ben and Gwen, and can hold his own in a fight. But in the end, just like Ben, he is just his age. An old man, but it doesn't interfere with his love for good and fighting for it. He seems more like a father figure to Ben than his own father, as for one. Grandpa is more of a main character while Ben's dad shows up like twice. And second, Grandpa is more persevering and never tells Ben to not do what he wants. He has that awesome voice that sounds a lot like, oh, he's not well known for anything else. Well, way to ruin a joke you tell this little... Okay, this blood is gonna need to be wiped off, but until I find something... His voice is actually pretty epic, and gives the character a bit of a zing. Let's hope they never replace him. Oh. Well, now he's played by the guy who played Clank from Ratchet & Clank. I think he was better voicing a robot dressed as a robot than a robot dressed as an old man with a very rough history. The other allies, like some good guys they meet over the show, are cool, and I like them for the most part. Then we go to the bad guys. The first, biggest, and baddest villain we meet is none other than Vilgax. He is later revealed to be a water and air-breathing alien that looks like an octopus made up of living freaking energy. I'm exaggerating, but I read stats on the Ben 10 fandom linked to the page in the description below, and Vilgax's description is freaking scary to be honest. He's revealed to be from a planet named Dagon's world, which is surprisingly a world made up of the species of Dagon, a being literally made up of living energy. It has two species, the Dagons, or demons, and the Lacubra, both of which are what Vilgax is in terms of species. He's also revealed to be more than 240, whereas super old demons like Dagon himself have been revealed to be more than 1700 years old. He has tons of powers and abilities, including enhanced strength, agility, durability, jumping, space survivability, underwater breathing, enhanced breathing, squid form, tentacles, makes you wonder how those help in fighting, heat resistance, energy blasts, flight, optic blasts. Oh, cool. Wind breath, and dimensional jumping. Jesus! And he has equipment too! A sword, the Ruby Ray of Ulo, this thing, the Shield of Zeagle, his energy shield, and malware armor. Makes you wonder how he hasn't just killed Ben already, or as Kevin puts it,
they could just blink and we'd be gone.
Like, Vilgax should be promoted from Conqueror of 10 Worlds to like 1,000,000 worlds. I think from this data it's safe to say that the crew working on the show put all their effort to make this the most intimidating villain they could think of. He is voiced by a couple people throughout his games and shows, including Steve Blum, James Remar, or John DiMaggio. I think his voices have been pretty cool over the years, and the casting has been pretty good. His animation has also changed a lot over the years, but more on that later, my minions. Then we go to Kevin. He has a nice backstory and gets time to develop. His voice actor was pretty cool, and it's just a great idea for a character. He has an interesting power to absorb the energy from things with power in them, including the Omnitrix. And aside from some other one-off villains, there's not much left. Now let's get into the comedy. Now to wipe this butt off. Now, this is a hard category. I can't go episode by episode and point out all the jokes or we'd be here all day. So I'll go over the types of humor they have. For example, slapstick, satire, or actual jokes. I will say which succeeded or failed. We start with the bickering comedy. This comedy is mainly between Ben and Gwen, struggling to share or be kind to one another, and having some goofy moments from their constant fuss. There's also the joke when Grandpa Max turns to the camera and sighs. It's just a simple joke that really works. There's also the classic Ben scenes where the Omnitrix is a pain and never works right, and Ben hits the thing and yells while in the middle of something. There's also, of course, the puns Ben uses when he turns into an alien, or the most common form of humor, simple one-line jokes and punchlines. Now for the fun stuff, the animation. This is a big one because the animation and art style in Ben 10 Classic was much better than it needed to be. Although I think the art style was better in the Ultimate Alien Force era, as some call it, I still agree that the animation, the movement, and interaction of the characters was pretty smooth and unique. You could tell the people working on it cared and never felt restricted to add a couple of cool backgrounds or Easter eggs. The colors were pretty dark and edgy, yet quite fun and optimistic, to merge both the fun and action-packed sides of the show. To show accurately what the show is in perspective. The theme song in Ben 10 Classic is very interesting. It is my favorite theme of all the shows, and it was in my top 10 cartoon theme songs video. It was sung by Moxie, or Miss Moxie, as you might know, and is honestly pretty epic. The animation is pretty awesome, and the background chants are just icing on the cake. My favorite part of the thing was the alien introductions with the slick, simple animation and backgrounds, and the beat and tempo of the whole thing was pretty good too. Weird, interesting, and awesome, just like the show. So all in all, Ben 10 Classic is a great show and definitely worth the view. The plots can vary, characters are pretty interesting, and the comedy and animation is spot on. However, a little more comedy wouldn't have been bad. The theme song is also pretty great. Loved it overall, and would give it a 9 out of 10.
This is the worst show I've ever seen.
Really? It's my favorite.
Well, I don't watch a lot of television.
This isn't the best one to start with. It's not
Ben 10
classic. It's
Ben 10 Alien Force.
Yeah, I don't really care.
a sequel to the original show, but they kind of messed it up. It's like 5 years later and the bad guy
Kevin.
teamed up with the hero.
Ben.
It's not very realistic is all I'm saying. Anyway, there's only 5 more of these before they cycle back to the original show. You'll see, it's way better.
Yeah, I gotta go.
Where?
I don't know. Somewhere.
Running from 2008 to 2010, Ben 10 Alien Force is definitely a good show. It is my third favorite show, but it does have a few legs. So let's get into it. The story in Alien Force is a little wanky. We start with Season 1. It starts with Ben 10 Returns, a great 2-part starter to this show with a lot of laughs, tears, and a lot of fun all around. The last episode was called X equals Ben plus 2, which is a very clever title by the way. This season definitely wanted to focus on the new cast of characters in every episode, with new villains, ally settings, etc. A new watcher of this series should absolutely start with Season 1, I think. The second season perhaps had the weirdest episode concept in a long time, but the episodes were all really entertaining for the most part. Most of the episodes episodes were centered around Ben, like Alone Together, an episode I have in fact reviewed in Super Reviews, which you should also check out. The season ended with the special called War of the Worlds, which brought in so many characters into such an awesome plot. It also featured a lot of former aliens being reused, like Cannonbolt and Waybig. The new war with the newly introduced DNA aliens is a great war where we see a kind of villain we haven't really seen before in the classic series. Then there was Season 3. Season 3 was the worst to come out of this series. I'm not the first to say it, and I certainly won't be the last. The characters got an overhaul, but now that we're covering story, I like to focus on that first. The episodes were very lazily mashed together in this season. In the first episode, we get an epic war with Vilgax after 40 minutes of build-up and action, and in the next episode, we're stopping Volcanus from digging to the center of the earth. In the next episode, we're helping an alien who likes popcorn and poops gold find his best friend who got mutated from the mayor. See what I'm getting at? Some episodes like Primus, Ghost Town, or Above and Beyond were pretty world-building and entertaining, while other episodes like Fool's Gold or Busy Box felt insulting. Oh no, not again! The episodes felt rushed, as if the writers just wanted to tell the stories without the zing they once had. It was a shame to see that happen though, but the season and series ended with the final battle, a great episode in terms of plot. Overall, the plot was pretty wanky in general.
Fun.
The characters in Alien Force are pretty interesting. We start again with Ben. This time he is a lot more mature and inspiring. I do prefer the character development they gave Ben in the first 2 seasons, making him want to form a team after my Grandpa Max's absence. He really feels like he deserves the Omnitrix and truly is a hero. Then we have Gwen. Gwen got a massive overhaul from the classic show, which I think was great. She's so much more mature, the voice of reason, and thinks very fairly. Her powers also get a nice upgrade and she can do better with her magic, but it's not her full ability. Not yet, at least. Then we have Kevin. Kevin is one of a kind. His humor is probably the best thing about him. He always managed to make me laugh whenever he showed up, but like Gwen, he only gets better towards the start of Ultimate Alien. Then we have Season 3 of Alien Force. Season 3, once again, was the worst thing in the show in terms of characters. Ben turns much more immature, and I'm not the first to say it. Kudos to these people here for the info. And this is very noticeable if you binge at least half of Season 2 and then half of Season 3. Ben turns so much more childish and annoying, which I think is a massive downgrade from the great character development Ben got previously. The other characters stayed the same, but Ben especially got really irritating. Maybe this was to build gradually to the final battle, in which Ben goes from careless to a bit more mature again at the end, but that's not an excuse to jump straight from Season 2 to Season 3 like that and skip the gradual maturity drop that comes with Ben being a hero. And this might not even be the reason, as apparently Cartoon Network wanted higher ratings for Ben to act childish. Even in Ultimate Alien, where Ben has fame and gets more laid back and chill about everything, he still has to deal with a lot of failures throughout the show. The new villain of Albedo is very cool and the type of character you think would be in this kind of atmosphere. Overall, I think the characters were excellent until we got to Season 3, when Ben got very wrong.
Fun.
Once again, the comedy in Alien Force mostly comes from Kevin's amazing lines, like the intro skit I put before. His lines are always so snarky and he's so frank. Ben's puns are sometimes clever and occasionally make me chuckle, but Ben's immaturity wasn't as funny as they expected. In fact, I'd say it was a little frustrating, but the comedy felt nice when it was funny and felt like a polish on an already good episode.
Fun.
The animation and art style in Alien Force is pretty good. People might think Alien Force and Ultimate Alien have the same animation, but in fact, Ultimate Alien has a bit smoother animation. Anyway, Alien Force's art style is very realistic, dark, with a lot of shadows, and a really nice flowy animation that looks very much like a modern edgy comic book.
Fun.
Something I love about Alien Force's theme song is how inviting it is. The music track is very catchy, yet only better in 1.25 speed in my opinion. The animation is only better the more you see it, from the character introductions to the aliens and the epic background mini scenes happening simultaneously with the awesome transitions. It has a lot of green, reds, or bright colors in general. Overall, it's pretty cool.
Fun.
Overall, I think Alien Force was a good show. It's not as good as classic for sure, but the story was good for the most part, characters were mediocre, comedy was okay, theme song was great, and the animation was good as well. It introduced a ton of new characters and evolved the main ensemble of characters tenfold. The stories were different to what we've seen in the classic series, and the theme song and animation is pretty good too. It's also funny, not a lot, but just slightly. After doing a lot of thinking, I would give Alien Force an 8 out of 10.
Fun.
Here at Cartoon Network, we're looking for something a little different, and unfortunately, Benton Alien Force needs to go. Any new ideas?
Well, what are you looking for?
Well, let's make 50 more sequels!
About what?
Well, the kids really like those alien guys. What can you do with those?
We can make 6 of them faster and stronger and grow spikes? Running from 2010 to 2012, Ben 10 Ultimate Alien will always stick to all our hearts as the Ben 10 reincarnation with the most story and character development, and probably the best series. I personally do think Ultimate Alien is the best series, and I guess I'll explain right now, as we talk about Ben 10 Ultimate Alien.
The new rig comes with some extras. Ultimate Swamp Fire!
The Ultimate in Ultimate Ultimate was very ultimately Ultimate Ultimate.
The new rig comes with some extras. Ultimate Swamp Fire!
Oh yeah, the story in Ultimate Alien was good. The first season was great. It very heavily focused on Ben's fame after getting publicity for the Omnitrix, and it focuses on revisiting old characters from Classic and Alien Force, such as Octagon and Rhomboid Riedel, Charmcaster, Zombozo, or Cash and JT. There was the mini-series of the Map of Infinity, where Ben unlocks 5 new aliens on the path to stopping Agregor from getting to the Forge of Creation after his multiple successes. There were a lot of filler episodes in the season though, intermixed with the mini-series as previously mentioned. For example, after the 5 episodes where Agregor gets the 5 aliens' powers, those being Terraspin, Water Hazard, Energy, Amphibian, and Armadillo, we get an episode where Ben fights his childhood idol superhero for fame. Or after Agregor was getting the 4 pieces of the Map of Infinity, we get an episode where Ben has to help his school bullies Cash and JT, as previously mentioned, work on their online show. They weren't bad per se, but honestly should have been held until season 2, as there are so many episodes to juggle and remember that the filler episodes don't add as much suspense as they do confusion, at least in my opinion. I'm sure everyone will give me their opinions in the comments down below though, but the mini-series episodes were really entertaining, like Perplexahedron, The Forge of Creation, or Deep. They did a great job of introducing new atmospheres, villains, aliens, and plots creatively in an easy-to-digest format that was funny and entertaining. The season ended with the 2-part special called Absolute Power, which felt like an honest lid on a great season. Season 2 was perhaps the opposite. The episodes heavily focused on introducing or focusing on secondary characters, and the plots usually swayed around those. It was a bit shorter season, only consisting of 11 episodes, but it was fine. The first episode was called Man, these writers should name anime characters. The first episode was called The Transmogrification of Eunice, and it was very sweet. And the last was called Prisoner 775 is Missing, which was really entertaining. Season 3 was quite a mix of Season 1 and 2. It had everything. Character development, romantic episodes, story heavy and more complicated plot, grand episodes, comedic episodes, and whatever this is. It started with The Purge, which had one of the best lines in Ben 10 history.
I'm Ben Tennyson, wielder of the most powerful weapon in the universe. I stopped the hybrid invasion. I defeated Vilgax in hand-to-hand combat. And I've beaten the Forever Knights more times than I can count.
Season 3 in Ultimate Alien as a whole ended on March 31st, 2012, with the epic two-parter ending simply called The Ultimate Enemy. Although having a pretty short and weak ending fight scene, the visuals, emotion, some music, the artistic integrity, and the amazing ending with having a recap of Alien Force and Ultimate Alien, Azimuth giving Ben the new Omnitrix, Ben smiling, and there being a tribute to the amazing late Dwayne McDuffie make this great. It definitely ended on a high note, higher than what had ever come before it.
System restart in progress.
Thanks.
Ultimate!
Ultimate Spider Monkey!
The characters were surprisingly really great in Ultimate Alien. My least favorite definitely has to be Gwen. She's always shown to be so weak compared to Ben, Kevin, or other Anodites, yet she was called the strongest being in her world. And not only was she weak, she was also really smug and irritating. She always had that stuck-up, do-what-you-want attitude that doesn't work when she seems so weak and powerless. Ben, on the other hand, massively improved since Alien Force and now feels like a true hero. He has to deal with fame, mortality, many losses, publicity, power, a relationship, and a more serious outlook on life. And instead of denying it and knocking it to the side like classic Ben, or act immature and too cool for that like in Alien Force, here he feels like a true hero. Kevin is once again spectacular. He is so cheeky and snarky at times that I couldn't go 3 episodes without laughing at every line he said. Just the voice done by Greg Sipes and his face make it hit home almost always. I know I didn't bring up the voice actors in Alien Force's characters, but that was honestly due to the time restraint. But Yuri Lowenthal's voice brings everything to Ben, and so does Gwen's voice by Ashley Johnson. Although honestly not as good as Yuri or Greg for that matter. And there's also Agrigor, who is a very clever idea, also being an Osmosian like Kevin, but quite frankly has zero character or motivation to get power other than power is great, I love power! But overall, the characters got a pass. Ben and Kevin really make the episodes flow though. I never really watched an episode and thought, wow, if Gwen wasn't here, this would have been so different, because it honestly wouldn't have.
System restart in progress.
Thanks.
Ultimate Big Chill.
Once again, most of the comedy revolved around Kevin. I swear, there wasn't a moment when Kevin couldn't at least make me courteously chuckle or laugh out loud. He just has something in him, you know? Once again, Greg Sipes brings a lot to this character, and remember, comedy is about a few things, at least in my opinion. Timing, delivery, misery, and reaction. The timing with Kevin was always smooth, the delivery by the voice actor and the animation is great, the misery is usually his snarkier combative attitude, and the reactions are the best. Therefore, Kevin is the best and biggest source of comedy in this series.
System restart in progress.
Thanks.
Ultimate Echo.
The animation and art style remain pretty similar through Alien Force and Ultimate Alien, but I will admit Ultimate Alien was more complicated and looked much nicer. The character poses were all really actiony and cool, and the animation and movement of it all was a lot smoother than Alien Force and looks much more realistic. The alien redesigns and the transformation sequences are also much more interesting than before.
System restart in progress.
Thanks.
Ultimate Cannonbolt!
The Ultimate Alien theme song was surprisingly underwhelming for the same franchise that brought you the classic and Alien Force theme. Unlike the others, this one was a shocking 20 seconds long. Even counting the length out, the visuals and content was also pretty bad. The song is grand but nothing special, and the visuals are just the aliens in the Ultimatrix. Maybe clips of the characters or the Ultimate Aliens in action would have made it cooler, but as it is, it gets a strong meh.
System restart in progress.
Thanks.
Enough of this! Time to go Ultimate! Ultimate Humongosaur!
So overall, Ben 10 Ultimate Alien still remains my favorite show. The story and characters were both great, both having a few imperfections, and the comedy was spot on. The animation was very smooth, but the theme song was a little bad. So it still does remain as my favorite series, but we'll get to ordering them soon. But I will give this show a 9 out of 10. And that concludes the Ultimately Ultimate and Ultimately and the Ultimately Ultimate Ben 10 Ultimate Alien. Ultimate.
System restart in progress.
Thanks.
Well, here we are once again, Joe Kelly of Man of Action Studios, and we need more Ben 10!
Well, sir, we really don't have any ideas anymore.
We've done new aliens, evolved aliens. Oh, I know. We can merge aliens using a blob of snot mucus that sticks conveniently to the Omnitrix, and we'll get Ben a new partner!
Have you ever considered ending the series?
Don't ever ask me that again, Kelly.
Starting from 2012 to 2014, Ben 10 Omniverse was definitely the most controversial Ben 10 series. I don't think it was a bad or even mediocre show though. Omniverse definitely still kept the feeling all the Ben 10 series maintained, and was really funny. It is my least favorite show in comparison so far, but it definitely comes close to Alien Force, and maybe I'll change my mind when we soon order them from worst to best. Let's just jump into it. The story in Omniverse was extremely mixed. There were 8, not seasons, but arcs, each consisting of 10 episodes. I think this is cool, but does make this a little more difficult. Let's go through them a little faster. Arcs 1 and 2 included all the classic episodes you think of when Omniverse comes up. The plots were usually about Ben and Rook or other characters going out and ending up in shenanigans that usually resulted in some action. Arcs 3 and 4's plots were all about focusing on secondary, more tertiary characters, with Ben and Rook obviously tagging along. And I think it was cool to revisit this world's characters. Arc 5, also known as the Galactic Monsters arc, was not my favorite arc, but it wasn't bad. I just found it mediocre. The plots were about spooky scenarios and characters, and it revisits aliens like Ben Victor, and it introduces some new ones too. Arc 6 focused on Ben again, like Universe vs. Tennyson or The Avengers. The special at the end by the name of Weapon 6 was really entertaining and pretty deep. Arc 7 once again focused on secondary characters in every episode, like Mr. Bauman, Fistrick, or Esther. It made the plots more interesting and original, to be honest. Finally, we had Arc 8. They told the last few episodes, and fun fact, the first episode where Scourge shows up was written by Richard Purcell. We all know I love him. Scourge was a pretty bad plot element, especially because he was only there for 9 episodes out of 80. An episode was also written by Yuri Lowenthal, so this arc was definitely interesting. The last episode was also extremely fun and emotional, and it was my favorite episode of Omniverse. And that was every freaking Omniverse arc reviewed. Now to actually watch it.
I know I'm the new guy, Ben Dude. Dude. Whoa! Who's this guy?
The characters in Omniverse also got a strong pass. Ben still maintained the optimistic, overly confident Ben he always was, and Rook is better than Kevin and Gwen any day. Although he's not as funny as Kevin, Rook is still a mile ahead of Kevin or Gwen in terms of character. He's much more powerful and interesting, being an alien, and his lack knowledge of English made for some good jokes. His backstory is really interesting as well. His father was a farmer and he used to be one himself as well. His weapons are also pretty cool and goes well along Ben. The old characters with charm like Kevin, Gwen, or sometimes Grandpa Max was also stripped away, although less for Grandpa Max. The new villain of Kyber was also a great idea, him having a Nemetrix that has the natural predators of the Omnitrix as aliens. Although there is a plot hole that if the Omnitrix is every intelligent life form in the universe, doesn't it also have the Nemetrix aliens and their natural predators? And does the Nemetrix have predators of those in it too? How does it work? The other new villains are great too, like Dr. Psychobos or Malware, who all have great character and usually get time devoted to them, and aren't underplayed like some villains in Classic or Alien Force. But other than that, the characters were all good. They clearly weren't great, and it does tip more toward the mediocre, but it was passable. Nothing is perfect.
I know I'm the new guy, Ben Dude. Dude. Whoa! Who's
Omniverse, for some reason, heavily focused on the comedy rather than the action most of the time. While some might see this as a problem, I see it as the show going down with its viewers a bit, which is fine. Plus, there was plenty of action in the show, don't get me wrong. It was just that sometimes the jokes were overplayed and therefore less funny. Most jokes regarded Rook's mispronunciations, the Omnitrix giving Ben the wrong alien, wacky minor characters, pop culture references, animated humor, and the bickering between Ben and Skirt in the last few episodes. That's pretty much it. There was definitely a lot to commend this show for, and comedy was a big one without a doubt. In fact, maybe a little too much.
I know I'm the new guy, Ben Dude. Dude.
The animation in art style in Omniverse is the fanbase's biggest gripe with it, and I honestly disagree. I even said the animation was bad in an old video, and I think that was pretty absurd of me. First off, and thanks to Kerr the artist for informing me of this through his great videos, the art director of Omniverse was Derek Wyatt, who is very famous for shows very well commended for the art style, and I personally think it looks very nice and colorful, and fits the action and comedic tone that Ben 10 has perfectly. The animation is extremely smooth and nice looking, and is pleasing to look at because of how well animated it is. The new character designs of every single character is very cool, and I just love how they move and look. Ergo, I think the animation in Omniverse is way too overhated for its own good, because it is truly fantastic.
I know I'm the new guy, Ben Dude. Dude.
The Omniverse theme song just simply wasn't my cup of tea. It was fine, energetic, fun, cool, fast, but something about the vocals or the music or the visuals just throws me off a little. The song is a little too fast and the lyrics are a little unneeded, especially because with Ultimate Alien Force the themes didn't have any lyrics. The visuals are also fine. We get the aliens and characters in a cool fashion. It was just fine. I can see how people may like it, but I just think it's meh compared to other show theme songs, but it is definitely better than Ultimate Aliens.
I know I'm the new guy, Ben Dude. Dude.
And that was Omniverse. Wow, what an interesting show. I have to say I wasn't as enthusiastic to write, record, and edit this series part as much as the others, but it is still a good show. A show with a good story, great characters, hilarious humor, fantastic animation, and a mediocre theme song is a good show. I would give Ben 10 Omniverse a 7.5 out of 10. And that's that, Ben Dude.
Ben Dude. Ben Dude. Ben Dude.
Running from 2016 to present day, the Ben 10 reboot is one of the worst cartoons ever made. I was originally planning to reuse an old video clip where I review this show, but I'll just go over everything a little faster here, so no more slides. Let's get into it. The plots are boring, rushed, and reused, with the underwhelming 11-minute runtime. In terms of characters, Ben and Gwen are usually flanderized and more childish, and I honestly prefer the snarky Gwen over the new, nicer one. And Grandpa Max is just simply not a character anymore to a brick with arms and legs. There is comedy, but most of it is either on funny or just a little funny, and the animation is the same as literally everything on Cartoon Network nowadays. Like, honestly, Cartoon Network, get some variation, at least in your animation. And why did the characters have those red burns on their foreheads? The action is so underwhelming at times that I found it kind of boring. And the aliens, the things that made these series as successful as they are the worst. The designs look more childish and cute, which ruins the intimidating kind of gross mindset from the classic series. Plus, some redesigns like Stinkflies are horrendously bad. Also, why do they bring back Water Hazard in this show? Why not bring back Ghost Freak or Ripjaws over Overflow and Wildvine? The theme song is fine, nothing special, but nothing bad. So in general, I won't say this is the worst thing ever, but it's a huge disgrace to this franchise. Now that all that stuff's done, we're nearing the end. Let's now order the 5 shows from worst to best. Number 5, and therefore the worst show of the Ben 10 franchise, is of course the Ben 10 Reboot. I mean, whoever didn't see this coming from a mile away must not have seen the video, because the plots are boring and rushed, the characters are either flanderized or don't have characters, there's barely any comedy, and the animation and art style is not very original and fun. Just a mess all around. Number 4, and the second worst Ben 10 show, goes to Omniverse. Now, this is an interesting show for sure, and and I don't think it's bad at all. I would say it's a light good, saying how I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. All the new originality with the plots, characters, and art style are very flattering. The amount of passion that went into this is, in my opinion, on par with the classic series. All the new alien redesigns, the new secondary characters, and all the pop culture references in this show are all big factors to the passion that went into this show. Overall, a great one, but still number 4 in comparison. Number 3, the most middle-of-the-line show to come out of the Ben 10 franchise, goes to Ben 10 Alien Force. I think I just gave away the rest of the list for those of you who watched the whole video, but anyway, this show seems very fitting for the middle of the road. It was extremely hard to compare this one to Omniverse, but I feel like this one is better. Excluding Season 3, the characters, plots, and humor was great, with an amazing theme song and a nice animation. This show is just an all-around lovely one. Now, I'm gonna say number 1 first, because saying number 2 would give away number 1. So, between the classic series and Ultimate Alien, the best Ben 10 series goes to Ben 10 Ultimate Alien. This show created a world no other show I had ever seen had. The characters were so memorable, with relatable, goofy stories that gave the right amount of humor, entertainment, and awesomeness, along with some great character development squeezed in there. The theme song is fine, not bad, and the animation is on point as always. Overall, a truly ultimate series. And number 2 goes to Ben 10 Classic. Still a worthy rival with some great nostalgic tie-ins. This series is amazing. Oh Ben, you came into my heart, 13 years apart. You were funny, cool, entertaining, lovely to see while it was raining. I love your show, it is so great, and the sequels were only there to create. I wouldn't have my child after you, because I always knew through and through that you were so fun and cool. The way you jump and the way you move. The second I saw you on TV, I was on a watching spree. The action, stories, and concepts, the characters have left me upset. You were there for me when I was down, there for me when life came around. And I was really blue, and there was no garbage to see and view. You came around and changed my life. Remember you in the afterlife. The underratedness of you makes me rush and wanna puke. Maybe a little fun was had while Ben going to cabinet to save a lad. You always seem so cool to me. The aliens and characters bring so much glee. A little kid who saw it years ago and very much liked it was none other than me. Thank you, Ben 10. I will never forget you. I will never forget you. Thank you.
I think the voice matches the character perfectly, and then it is just mediocre, and that it's just
from new villains, allies, settings, etc.
It has 2 species, the dragons or demons, and the It has 2 species, the dragons or demons, and the lubricant. Jesus Christ. It has 2 species, the dragons or demons, and the lucubra.
But it's not her full ability. But it's not her full ability.
He has a nice backstory and gets time to develop.
Like Alone Together, an episode in the new war with the newly introduced Dan aliens is a great war where we kind of see the alien redesigns and the transformation sequences are all much more interesting than before as well. The alien redesigns and the transformation sequences are all The alien redesigns and the transformation sequences are also much more interesting than before.
Man, I breathe a lot. But I think starting the season with actual present time Ben is actually pretty clever. But I think starting the season with not actual present time Ben is actually pretty clever. But I think starting the season with not actual pretty time my body won't let me say this. But I think starting the season with not actual present time Ben is actually pretty clever. But I think starting the season
Thank you so much for watching my video. If you enjoyed the super long video, which I spent forever writing and editing, don't forget to like the video and comment down below your thoughts on the Ben 10 franchise and my video. I love hearing your thoughts and opinions, and I respond to every comment I get, so go ahead. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to check out my YouTube homepage and subscribe if you like what you see. And don't forget to hit that bell notification icon to stay up to date with my content. If you want to see spoilers for my channel or links to my videos and social medias, check out my website in the description below and card above. And also join my Google Plus community and Discord with the links below. Big kudos to my sites and sources: the Ben 10 Wikia, the grand cesspool of information that helped with the episode list and info, the character backstories and abilities, or just random info, the Ben 10 Wikipedia, which helps me with the mundane overviews, Kuro the artist's Ben 10 Tracing the Borders, that really helped with the research and motivation to actually make this video in the first place, IMDb, which helps with the casts and general consensuses, and Google and some other little sites which help with visuals and stuff. Not to mention my amazing Acer Windows PC and my video editing softwares, which only crashed about 1,200 times during the months this video took to make. Thanks for watching, and aside from me usually saying peace, if there's one thing you should learn from this video, it's that you should subscribe. Peace!